Why should I attend your meeting? What's in it for me? What value is there that I can attend? Today we're competing for people's attention. We need to try and hook their interest and grab it. Think about everything that they deal with out in the real world on their way to work. They've already processed messages, they've already looked at news articles, social media, and they've filtered out irrelevant information. So we're competing for that. We're competing because the entertainment industry, news, media, they've all conditioned us to try and expect excitement and hook our interest. So I return to that question, what's in it for me? Why should I attend your meeting? Now, if we're competing for people's attention, then we've got to make sure that it's really clear what this meeting is about. Your meeting invite is just an email in someone's mailbox and a subject, an unread message. And if some people are disciplined, they'll go through and they'll read those messages, others will just glance through. Now that meeting invite needs to be really clear to start with, not just starting with a great clear subject, but also a really clear agenda, a purpose for that meeting, and the items that you're going to be covering. When you're thinking about that purpose for the meeting, make sure that it is really clear and you have a good explanation, but not too long, because at a glance you want to be able to see what that meeting is all about. When you're listing the intended outcomes, this means that someone who glances at that meeting and is deciding whether or not to attend can see whether they can offer value to that meeting and what's in it for them. The format of the meeting invite is quite important too, because at a glance you will only be able to see the critical information. So you're not mashing together paragraphs or items that you tend to be covering, but do use bullet points, do use block paragraphs as well to outline critical pieces of information. Now, as you're creating this meeting invite, at the very basic level, consider who is going to be reading this and where they'll be reading this from. Many people do like to work from their mobiles, and so they glance through their mobiles to decide what meetings they'll be attending or what they already have in their calendars. And because it's on the mobile, it means that it's usually plain text. There's not a lot of features and flash things that you can put in there to attract people to a meeting. So consider that as you are formatting the meeting agenda and that meeting invite. List the most important information in text form and use basic formatting like bullet points or just block paragraphs so that it's easy to read when you're on the run from a mobile or tablet. Every meeting invite could benefit from some of these additional things that will help people to really see the purpose of the meeting and make that decision. If you list in an agenda, perhaps you want to consider approximate runtimes for the topics that you'll be covering in that meeting. This means that people can see roughly how long it will take and the importance that you're giving to each section. One other thing that I like to include is a agenda that is published in a notebook, perhaps OneNote for example. When you include a link to that meeting invite and to that notebook, this also allows people to potentially contribute to that meeting agenda, whether it be additional items or maybe talking points. By allowing people to contribute to the agenda early, this means that they feel part of the meeting, they feel like they're involved in the purpose of the meeting even before the meeting starts. In that meeting agenda, the link that you might be including, also include an area for sharing ideas, items that you could park, so that ahead of time as the discussion continues around the meeting, that you can take those ideas and expand on them. If you have any reference documents that people need to prepare for and you link to them, then make sure that you've included a reason why people should read that link. And because you've outlined that agenda, it's really important to stick to the agenda during that meeting. You need to be respectful of people's time. They have chosen to attend this meeting because they've seen the agenda, they've seen and decided whether they can offer value to it, and they've given up their time, so you need to stick to it. Much like when you go to a conference session and you want to make sure that that session does match the description. Nothing worse than going along to a conference session and it's got nothing to do with the description of that session. So let's take a quick look at the first skill. Now we have Patty Fernandez. She is organising a meeting to review the new features and do some product planning around the new Mark 8 drone. And she's needing to get together a number of different people to help with this meeting. So with the agenda and with the purpose of the meeting, it's really important to get that subject clear and also the purpose of the meeting, outlining also the agenda items that she'll be covering off. We'll create this meeting invite within Outlook on the web. We'll just choose 10:30 Monday, make it about an hour long for now. And as you see within Outlook on the web, it does allow you to create a quick meeting with just some of the basic information, but we're going to expand this to more details. All right, so this allows me to put in importantly, a clear subject about what this meeting's about. Finalising features for the Mark 8 drone. Really clear what that's about, isn't it? Now there's a number of other things in this meeting invite that we'll cover off in a following video, but for now let's just stick to the agenda. We're going to go down to the body of this message and add in an agenda. It's nice to see that if you click this button, it already guides you through to just at least drop in some bullet points for what that meeting is going to cover off. So we'll just delete that formatting. And first of all, we're going to put in a really clear subject about what this meeting is about. So this is to focus our efforts on finalising the features that will go into production for that drone. Okay, so it's already showing the importance of why attend and giving you an idea of the outcomes of that meeting. The resulting decision will give direction to engineers, manufacturing, but also allowing marketing to start focusing their efforts ahead of time. The intended outcomes are to finalise decisions for the planning around the features of that drone. Also made clear in this description that full attendance is required, so everyone who has been invited should attend, and that means that in a later video we'll talk about how to choose the right people to attend that meeting, and outlining too that the timelines are very tight, so it's critical that everyone needs to attend. Now we'll make that the first block or first paragraph so that at a glance you can go through and see what that meeting is all about, but now let's get into listing out that agenda. Now I like to recommend that you make that agenda on a new line so it feels like a new paragraph, a gap there, and also just putting that it clearly is an agenda, almost like using a heading. You could put the agenda as bullet point form or number form just to further emphasise that there is an order to what this agenda is covering. And you'll notice that I have gone through and added approximate run times to give an idea of how long the meeting's going to take and what we're going to focus on and how long that section might take as well. I've gone one step further and I've also listed the people that are going to take and facilitate that section within the meeting. Now that other recommendation and nice to have for meetings was to create a page in a notebook, a shared notebook, in this case it's going to be OneNote, and invite people to review this agenda and add items or discussion points, ideas as well. So in this next section that I paste into the meeting invite, we have a link to the meeting, the notebook for the meeting, and that allows you to open up that notebook, whether it be in OneNote as the application or also OneNote in the web. Now this is a notebook that sits within the team that the members of this meeting are going to belong to, so they already have permission to this notebook. And I know that by simply sharing it, I don't have to worry about permissions, but everyone who needs to access it can access it. And we'll have a look at that now. This is the Mark 8 project team. It already has members. We're certainly underway with production of the Mark 8 drone, and we have created a product planning channel where we can hold discussions around the product planning. For the purpose of the meeting invite, I am linking through to the shared OneNote notebook that is available within this team. So if we click on through to this notebook, I have used a section within the notebook which is just for the product planning channel, the people who are involved in product planning. Let's just expand that here so we can see it a bit fuller. And I like to use within a section a heading page, and then I indent some of the meetings so that it's nice and easy to see them together as meetings. I have linked through to the page for this meeting so that I've outlined the purpose, the agenda, the goals, and I've created a section for action items and for ideas. So effectively it does reflect what is in the meeting invite, but it adds a few more things to allow people to add to the content that could be conducted within the meeting. Under the agenda section, I've added a bullet point or two just to suggest that this is where you might want to put some talking points. And the beauty of this notebook is that it's available to people before the meeting, during the meeting, and after the meeting. So we will use this same meeting notebook or this page later on to be able to capture the notes for the meeting, keeping all the content together so it's not difficult for attendees to go back to the meeting, respond to different action items that they need to get involved in, and basically catch up with what that meeting was all about. So to grab a link to that meeting page, it's simply right-click and copy link to this page. This is OneNote online, but as you can see, it's encapsulated in Microsoft Teams, so it's still the same experience, and we can grab a link to that page. Before we move away from this page, I also should have mentioned that the subject of the meeting is also the name of the page. Nice and consistent, keep that consistency there so it's easy to find whether you're approaching it from the meeting invite or if you go into the notebook later on. Lastly, there are some things that I want people to read and prepare for this meeting. There are a few documents that I'd like them to see, a few resources that I might want them to check out. So I will list them in the agenda as well. And remember, if there's any vital information in any of these documents, then it pays to put it in plain text in a brief form so that people can, at a glance, see it from a mobile device. Now these links are, first of all, off to slide decks. This first link actually is also within the team, so you could click this link through and join the conversation. So if we go through to here, we'll just stick with the web experience of Microsoft Teams. Then this will take me directly through to the document and where I can continue the conversation about this document. And this is inviting a lot of discussion around the idea for this document. Okay, so that's really what I want to cover off initially about creating a meeting invite. The clear points here are make sure that your meeting invite is really clear what that subject is. You've got a purpose for that meeting. You're telling people why they should attend and what the purpose and the outcomes are so they can decide whether to attend and whether they can offer value. You've listed the agenda items so that they know what they're in for, and maybe some rough approximate run times so that they can see how much time we're going to spend on each topic. Some nice to haves, you've added a link through to a notebook page so that people can begin to add to the meeting notes, maybe adding some ideas and some talking points. And you've also listed the resources that people need to check out before they attend the meeting. In our next video, we're going to cover off how we invite people to a meeting. How do we organise whether the timings and agreeing on a meeting time, who should attend, the differences between required and optional, so that you can get the right people along to the meeting without wasting people's time. So tune in again and we'll catch you again soon.